Introducing National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk programming that you can access 24/7. For the premier sports talk experience, tap into our Roku channel. Start your mornings with Mac and Jack covering all the weekend sports action. Then pour a cup and enjoy all the sports you can drink on the Coffee and Sports podcast. At midday, talk sports from east to west on the Coast to Coast podcast. Followed at night by some hot girl talk with Prim and Proper Sports featuring Sonja Pearson. Talk boxing on the Gloved Fist. Yankee fans tune in for Start Spreading the News. And there's more on the College Sports Huddle and Sports Scope with Robert Butler. There are 20 podcasts in all and 70 weekly shows giving us a 3.4-star viewer rating. To find us on Roku TV, search for National Streaming Sports on the Roku search bar. Click on the logo and you're in. National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk for America.
Football season is here, and SeatGeek is my go-to for buying tickets. Now, with SeatGeek, every single ticket is backed with their buyer guarantee. We've all had plans change, and when you can't make it to the big game, SeatGeek has you covered. They're the only ticketer that allows you to return your tickets ahead of the event for credit with SeatGeek swaps. So when things come up, I know that my tickets won't go to waste. So what are you waiting for? Download the SeatGeek app to maximize your possibilities and shop live events with confidence.
National Streaming Sports is brought to you in part by BetUs.com, designed for true fans. NFL odds, Week 1 and futures, college football odds, including Heisman Trophy favorites and playoff odds, NBA odds of division winners and playoffs, Major League Baseball playoff and World Series odds, the National Hockey League Conference playoffs and Stanley Cup odds, and boxing wagers. Betting opportunities include versus the spreads and outright winners, also during the game. Use our link on our website, nessp.info, the Bet Us Opportunities webpage, for a 125% bonus on your first 3 deposits. Must be 21 years old, and remember, bet responsibly.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Saturday show here, the debate show. I am sitting in for interim host Mac, and I'm joined with J Train and Jack. This is their Saturday ritual. It's good morning, gentlemen.
Hey, good morning, Sonia. You mean you're the interim host, Sonia? You said you're sitting in for the interim host, Mac.
It's early. It's early.
Okay.
I'm sitting in as the interim. Everybody just going to have to default on that one, but I'm going to debate on that one and tell you that I was wrong. And thank you, Jack. Of course, wearing.
Good morning, Sonia. Good morning, Jack. Sorry. Yeah, let me get that in.
Thank you so much. Good to see you, gentlemen, this early morning. Download the Roku app so that you can be informed when we are live and when we have breaking sports news. Linda and Mac, thank you and good morning for this opportunity. Mac, of course, we miss you. We hope you're resting up really well, and we hope to see you soon. And make sure you guys rate us on Roku. Over 12,615 likes, all because of you. And we appreciate everyone that's coming on all the social media platforms. Of course, I'm going to break news today. I think this is going to be the trending one. Last night, the UConn Huskies, of course, getting it done against UCLA. Absolutely blowout there. They will meet Coach Dawn Staley and her Lady Gamecocks in the championship game. Congratulations to both of those teams. Of course, Paige Buckers looking the stellar WNBA number one prospect draft as she's looking. So congratulations to both of those teams and good luck. And of course, tonight is the Final Four for Duke, Florida, Houston, and who was the fourth team? Oh my gosh, can't remember. One of the Texas teams.
Auburn.
I'm tired.
And
Auburn
Houston.
Florida. Yeah.
And Florida. Yeah.
Duke versus Houston. Of course, I'm wearing my blue. Game time 6:09 for the Florida Auburn game and 8 o'clock for the Duke and Houston game. So big games tonight that will predict the championship game. Go Duke. All right, guys, got some breaking news before we get into our debate. Last night was a big night for hockey, and without a feat, Alex Ovechkin has broken Wayne Gretzky's NHL goal by
Well, tied it
tied,
actually.
excuse me, 894th career goal that is now tied. So congratulations to him. The Capital Star was all celebration last night. You guys heard about that?
Well, he actually may have been able to break the record yesterday, which is very interesting. The Washington Capitals beat the Chicago Blackhawks 5-3. Late in the game, when the team is behind by a goal or so, very late in the game with a minute or two left, they usually are going to pull their goalie to add another skater. So this way they can attack with one more, player to try to score a goal. It's kind of like a do or die effort. And as a result, the net is left open, making it much easier for the, defending team, the Capitals in this case, to score. So the coach of the Washington Capitals asked Ovechkin, do you want to be on the ice? Do you want to, have a chance to shoot at the empty net and break Gretzky's record? And Ovechkin said no. When he breaks the record, he wants a goalie to be in the net.
Oh, wow.
That's how he wants to break the record. He wants it to be dramatic. And the best way of comparing that would be, let's say, a baseball, a batter trying to break the home run record, and his team is up by 15 runs in the game, and the other team puts in a position player to just lob the ball to all the batters. And he says, no, I don't want to hit against him. I want to hit against the guy legitimately pitching. So kudos to Ovechkin. He wants the goal to be done the right way. And it does mean a lot to players because when they break a record, they always wonder how they're going to break it. They don't want to break it in a cheap fashion.
That actually makes sense. That's a lot of integrity. I didn't even think about all of that because you don't want to say you got the easy rate out, right? Right, Jay Train? You agree with that?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with that sentiment.
Yeah. So, all right. So we will get on to I was making sure there was no more breaking sports news. Welcome to the debate show again, everybody coming on. We've got some nice questions Jack has presented us for debate today. So thank you, Jack, for presenting those questions. And let's get into our first one now. There is no secret. Once again, John Morant is in the news for his G-star end gestures, handgun gestures. I mean, it's a mockery at this point. He's been warned time and time again by the league, including actually having weapons in view when he's doing lives, and now he's doing the gesture with his hand. The first question is going to be, should the NBA actually go ahead and suspend Ja for that type of conduct?
Well, he's been warned a number of times, and he was suspended last year, and there's a history of this going on. But what disturbs me is he did it one game. He hadn't done it for a while. Maybe he got excited or whatever, but the NBA warned him. And what does he do? He comes back the next game and he does it again. That's like saying bleep you to the NBA. And you can't let him get away with it now. It's easy to say just suspend him, kick him out, do this, do that. I understand all that. But the great Red Auerbach used to say, I don't handle men, I deal with men. And the NBA, are they dealing with Jay Morant? What they should do first and foremost, tell him he's got to report to the league offices in New York, which would be a pain in the neck on his off day. Now he's got to fly to New York, okay, from Memphis on his off day, which would be annoying enough. And it's something he wouldn't have to do. And explain to him, you can't do this. And hear what he has to say. Deal with him like an adult to a point. But then if he continues it, who is he? Suspend him 5 games. Suspend him 5 games and see how he likes that. And he loses his money and he's out. And then if he does it again after that, suspend him the rest of the season. And you better believe he's not going to do it anymore. Players get away with what they are allowed to get away with. I remember John McEnroe used to abuse the tennis umpires all the time. He used to call them every name in the book. But one time they gave him a penalty point, and it shut him up. He wasn't going to do it anymore at that point. So you just can't let Jay Morant get away with this. And as far as Jay Morant's dad maybe saying anything or this or that, I mean, who cares? You can't control a parent. You can't hold a player accountable for a parent. But what you could do as a league, if the parent creates a scene at the game, you could ban them from coming to the game if they're creating some type of scenes. But otherwise, it's a media thing. If the media wants to report what a parent says, there's nothing you can do about it. But then it's shame on the media by giving a parent a platform to cause all this negativity. But in the case of Jay Morant directly, yeah, he's been given enough warnings. They should have suspended him at least one game when he did that gesture the second time. At least one game. If I were the commissioner, I would have thought more along the lines of 3 games.
Yeah, and good morning, Richard. Richard actually agrees with that. J Train, what are your thoughts on that?
Look, John Morant was suspended for brandishing a literal gun that he had in his hand on social media. That makes sense. But to me, this has been an ongoing back and forth, not just with John Morant. John Morant's just the latest person to do these type of gestures. This has been going on for centuries. I mean, not centuries, pardon me. I know there's things that have been going on for centuries regarding this. But as far as entertainment, these guys are out there playing a game. They're out there playing at high adrenaline, and they want to celebrate after they're done. Like, I mean, for instance, the NFL is getting ready to change some rules. They're bringing rules that would kind of temper down on how guys celebrate. You're telling me it's okay for you to play a violent sport, but you can't do anything that represents anything that might be indicated as negative or violent. I mean, what did they say? They said to him that they warned John Morant that it could be interpreted in a negative light. So, let me tell you this is so hypocritical because the league does not care what these guys do on or off the field, off the court. What they care is about their bottom line. What sponsorships are going to be turned away from certain things that look a certain way from maybe a person of color. I mean, I hate to say it like that. I mean, it looks negative. I mean, it looks the term thuggish. It may look like that. And so what I would say is, yes, if you're John Morant, this is your bottom line. This is your livelihood. You need to conform to what these guys do because at the end of the day, you work for somebody. This is not your job. It's not your place of business. It's not your meeting. It's someone else's. So you need to do what they ask you to do. But at the same time, this is nothing new. I've seen Bo Jackson shoot 2 guns when he scored a touchdown at everybody that he beat. I just think that it's hypocritical of the league to do this because they don't really care about the situation, about what this kid does. It's more so about how you affect my brand, how you affect that. I mean, now, is he silly? Is he stupid? I think he may be. I don't know. I just to do it 2 games back to back, but I don't think he should be suspended. They just fined him $75,000. Hit him in his pocket.
J Train, but it's in the context of how you do it. I understand what you're saying about Bo Jackson. Sebastian Coe, who's a white British runner, did the same thing in the 1984 Olympics when he crossed the line. But Jay Morant is pointing at other people, at the other team in a gun gesture. That's the difference. If he was just pointing in general up in the air like 2 guns like this, that's different. It's in the context of how it's being done. And Jay Morant seemed to be doing it in a threatening way. Okay?
Well, Bo Jackson, when he scored a touchdown, he turned around and pointed at the defense with 2 hands and was pointing at each single person that actually he beat. So, I mean, I'm not saying that is right, but I'm just saying this is also hypocritical because we live in a society that condones violence in movies and everything. I mean, let's go all the way back to theater. We talk about Shakespeare. We talk about people getting killed. We talk about the Roman gladiators. These people literally were killing each other. So society has always been like this. I mean, what are we up in arms about? I mean, you want to be entertained. People like my man said, are you not entertained in The Gladiator? Are you not entertained? This is the same parts of it.
You're saying You're saying Jay Morant, if he continues this, nothing should be done. You give him a free pass to continue this on because we live in this type of society and we would be hypocritical to discipline him. So let him continue this all he wants.
I think we're pointing a finger at one person, but a lot of people do. When he pointed a finger in the game at the Warriors, the first game, didn't the other guy not do it back? Buddy Hield. Buddy Hield did it right.
Jay Morant has a history of
I
doing it.
get that. I totally get that.
It
And I
does
think he
not-
should have been suspended for the stuff that he did off the field. I agree with that. But on the court, I mean, I guess it's like you have a small window. I get what you're saying because Draymond Green has been guilty of a lot of things, gotten technicals for many different things, but some things, because of what he's done, he has a very small window or little room to do anything, because there's some things he might not be guilty of. Some people may antagonize him, like for instance, the situation with LeBron James when he stepped over him in the championship series in 2016, and he punched him in the groin, because no man wants to have anybody step over them. It's insulting. But because of his history, he got suspended. And LeBron James egged it on and said he called him the B word, and such, and said got him suspended. Should he have been suspended for that? Probably not. But because of his history, he got suspended. I mean, there was no room for it. So Ja Morant, in that instance, I agree. Look, you've done this. You have no window for anything. You should be clean. And like I said, if your bottom line is your money, don't do anything that might compromise that. That's my
75 grand being chump change probably to Jay Morant. I mean, that's the type of money he might spend for a night out on the town with his friends. I mean, it doesn't really have the impact. A one-game suspension, just the idea you're not allowed to play and that they're shutting you down, that has somewhat of an effect. But I think these amounts, they sound like a lot. 75,000 out of how many million is the guy, making like 50 million or whatever a year.
And good morning to you, Brent. Thank you so much for subscribing. And Richard is right. 75,000 is just chump change, but I don't know if Mac ever kind of inputs, but I want to input on just one thing. Jay Trey, you made a good point, but I kind of disagree with it myself, that the league doesn't necessarily care except for where their image is concerned. I kind of disagree to a little bit of a point, because at least on some surface levels, they do kind of appear to care. I mean, we see they had the end racism slogan for months on end, seasons on end, what have you. However, we are living in a society. The reason why I mentioned the guns per se is we live in a society that every year we see some type of threat within our U.S. We see some type of domestic threat, some type of a terrorist act, some type of incident where lives are taken of our fellow citizens. And because of that, in my opinion, it can't just be, okay, my brand looks bad. It has to be, I hate to say it, but it's true. These children were assassinated because of the same thing that you're celebrating. And so for at least the consciousness of having the mindset of protectiveness against children, I think that they do have a good stance that, hey, we're not promoting violence. Yes, it does look thuggery. Yes, it does, especially when you're just doing it. But we see it in the NFL. We've seen players called on the same thing. But it's all type of gestures that, like you said, have been around for a while. But just in this day and age, they mean something totally different.
Yeah, I would have to say that again, going back, I mean, these are the same people that will go and say, I don't want you to present this on TV, but they'll go watch a movie that's rated R, that has nothing but violence in it and everything else. And people would lie and say they don't do that. That's not true. There's the budget that it costs to make movies is far superseded by the amount that they make getting back from people watching it. So I don't want to hear that like people are so up in arms about guns, but they like to see it.
Jay, we're missing the point here. No one was calling for him to be suspended when he did it for the first time, a few days ago. I mean, he hadn't done it for a while. Basically reprimanding him the way the league did was good enough, saying, hey, don't do this again. When he came back the next game and did it, that's where the problem is. Because the league told him not to do it, and he disregarded the memo from the league. And that's flat out wrong. Regardless of what you think of his gesture, the league was within their rights to tell him not to do that. And it wasn't like Jay Morant was standing up for some principle in society by doing it again. He was just doing it because he was being a knucklehead the second. Let's be honest about
No,
it.
I agree that he's a very defiant young
Right,
player.
he was being defiant the second time around, and no reason to be. He wasn't being defiant based on principle. He was being defiant out of in a disrespectful way. That's the way I think the problem lies.
Yeah, and I definitely agree. Great discussion on both of that, and I actually see both sides. Let's move on to our second question here. We've seen Paige Buchers do her thing, but let's reverse it a little bit back to last season, and saw the introduction of Caitlin Clark from college into the WNBA, excuse me. And so we've seen how she played. The question presented is she actually overrated because she is white? Now, this could be one of those topics that could be a little sensitive, but a thought-provoking question nonetheless. And so we're going to entertain that. J Train, I'll start with you. What do you think she's overrated because she is white?
I like the question. I looked at it and I had to contemplate on how I'm going to answer this. And I thought about exactly what you're saying. Like, wow, this is really going to open a can of worms. I don't think she's overrated, but I think another word is I think she's overhyped.
Mm-hmm.
Or can it be the same thing or can it be different? I think they're different. And this is how I think so. Overrated, no, because her numbers, her gameplay proves everything. She is an excellent player. I watched her in college. I mean, I look, the first time I heard LeBron James in high school, I was like, who is this kid they're talking about? I got to see him play. And, why is there the media hyping over a high school player, showing his games in high school at St. Mary's?
Yeah.
And I watched it. I was like, okay, I see why they're doing this. This is a legit player. When I watched Caitlin Clark in college at Iowa, she is legit. She's 6 foot. I'll be honest with you, she kind of reminds me of Steph Curry. The way they have her running around, nobody can get to her, and by the time she gets the ball, she's lighting up a three in your face. And so, to me, she got the bullying when she was in the league. She got but a lot of people were upset that she's getting all this media attention. And reality is she deserves it, but I think it's a numbers game. I really do. It's always been a numbers game when we talk about entertainment, we talk about music. Unfortunately, we're speaking about black and white. I just think that the media, everybody in the world watches basketball, right? But here we're talking about a white person that has 71% of people that look like her want to see her succeed. And for 13% of African Americans want to see her succeed as well. But at the same time, not everybody, it's not always reciprocated in that way. And then also you got to look at it now. We're in a woke society. We're in a liberated society. She's a female. She's a woman. And so she's white and she's female. So that goes into her favor right now in this climate that we live in. And so I think that she's getting the numbers. She's getting the viewership. People who don't watch basketball know who Caitlin Clark is now. Young girls who probably don't even watch basketball, play basketball, know who Caitlin Clark is. So, and then they see her. And that's the thing about the media. I don't care who you are. It could have been Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan was a a-hole off the field, but when they presented Michael Jordan, they presented him as this wholesome dude, this nice guy. Everybody want to be like Mike. She's getting that presentation as well. She's getting it. I don't know who she is off the court. I mean, but in reality, she seems like a really nice person. She seems like this girl next door, and she can play basketball. So she's getting the hype. But is she overrated? She is not overrated. She's got a contract. that's worth $28 million from Nike, but also the best player in the league, Asia Wilson, also got a contract that's like lucrative, makes her one of the highest paid females in the history of sports in regards to her and her money that she gets, her endorsements. But no, I don't think she's overrated at all.
Jack?
Yeah, I mean, she gets more attention because she's white, and it's not a racist thing though. It's a question of her being different. I'll give you an example. Who's the biggest name in Major League Baseball, the most hyped player? It's Ohtani, who's Asian. He's not a white American, Ohtani, yet by far he gets the most hype because he's different, coming from Japan. Okay, and it's not just along racial lines here. More so, if you notice, it's along gender lines. Think of the difference in attitude towards Caitlin Clark between the black NBA players and the black WNBA players. The black NBA players, the males, have been very supportive of Caitlin Clark. They've been telling the WNBA players, cool it, she's good for you. She elevates your league. She's great for basketball. Yet there's a lot of petty jealousy that's been coming out against Caitlin Clark from the WNBA players. So it's like a male-female thing to a degree. Look, I heard this when Larry Bird was coming up. He's overhyped, he's this, he's that, And my friends who are black didn't want to give Larry Bird credit by being a great, great player. They say, oh, no, he's really, really good. They said they'll acknowledge, they'll give him that, oh, Larry Bird is really good. Yeah, sure, he's really good, but he's not like that great, and so on. But then if I mention the name of Kurt Rambis, they'd be lavish in their praise. It was as if Larry Bird was a threat, to being the best player in the game at the time. And now that Larry Bird's career is over, everyone acknowledges Larry Bird's greatness. No one would dare say anything negative about what a great player Larry Bird was. Look, Caitlin Clark is being overhyped in part, and you could even say large part if you want, because she's white, but it's because she's different. If there were a number of other outstanding white players, Caitlin Clark would be diminished, okay, in that sense. She wouldn't stand out the same way. Look, we've seen it happen all the time. When you had Fernando Venezuela in baseball, he was different. If you get someone, let's say, from another country, coming in, all of a sudden they're a star. Look, Jeremy Lin, for example. Look at the buzz he created. If Jeremy Lin was a white American, a white-born American, doing the same thing, he wouldn't have gotten the buzz that he got.
Not true. Luka Doncic is definitely an example of that. And I mean, even though they're Eastern European, they're still white. So no, they.
No, but they're not. Luka is not looked at as being a white American. There's a difference. He's not looked at. Yeah. He's looked at as being a foreigner more so. In the Olympics, he doesn't play for the United States of America.
No, I get that. So in that regard, but he's still looked at as, most people forget that he's Eastern European when you see him play. They don't think about that until the Olympics come. You don't really think about him being until he speaks.
But you make a point, Jay Crane, about marketing to Bo Jackson. Bo Jackson was a two-sport athlete. Bo Jackson was a great football player. But was he the number one player in the NFL when he played? You could say he was one of the best.
No, but he wasn't the number one.
Yeah, and he wasn't the best baseball player either, even though he was a heck of a good player. Yet he was marketed as this Superman. And if Bo Jackson were white, we probably would have heard this or that. Well, if he wasn't white, he wouldn't have this and that. And if Pete Rose were black, we would have been hearing, well, if Pete Rose were white, he would have been inducted into the Hall of Fame by now. Listen, Caitlin Clark is overhyped to an extent because she's white. No question about it. She wouldn't be as hyped as she's been if she were black. I mean, anyone who doesn't acknowledge that, there's something off. But I don't think it's blatant racism or anything like that. I think it's more case of her just being different because there's so few outstanding white players like that. When you get one, it's kind of like a novelty,
She's a unicorn. She's a unicorn for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but again, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I just go ahead. Go ahead. You hadn't.
No, I was just going to say it's going to be interesting to see. Richard had a good comment that the hype was needed to, pump up the WNBA to get the hype going, getting people attending games. I'm just going to say this, and just from a racial standpoint, since it is part of the question, a lot of times, we remember the movie White Men Can't Jump. It's kind of the thing that we see now, whites are playing in this sport, kind of the equivalent of the NFL being the opposite factor. However, I'm going to put a pin in it. It's going to be interesting to see what it looks like in 2, 3, 4 years when Juju Watkins comes into the league, because Juju has surpassed Caitlin's record for all-time scoring this season. So when she comes into the league as an African-American female, it's going to be interesting to see how she matriculates into the league, how she mirrors or surpasses what Caitlin has done in the league. And then it would be a more accessible question to say, okay, was Caitlin actually overhyped because she was white, or was she just, like Jack said, she was standing out at the time, but now that other players are coming in, she's more diminished? So that's a really good question. Jay Trey, I'm sorry, you were speaking.
No, no. Look, I mean, like I said, I think Caitlin Clark's just a unicorn because of the color of her skin and the level of play that she was given. I just think that people automatically flock to what they know. I mean, like I said, the numbers are there. The numbers are a big factor. I mean, again, African Americans make up about 13-14% of the population. If you make up 71% of the population, it's almost a given. If you look like somebody and you see them and you're entertained, more people are going to be entertained by who that player is. Not saying LeBron James is not international. He gets play from everybody. But again, like you said, the novelty. People want to see somebody that little children want to see somebody that looks like them succeed. So it's nothing wrong with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I think that the issue is that if you don't, like Richard said, it brought attention to everybody. So now you're starting to see other players because it had nothing to do. I don't think it had anything to do with whether or not these girls were good or not. I mean, because there's always been great players in WNBA. It's just whether or not people want to watch it. It's the bottom line. Is that's the sport. Is like, is it entertaining enough to even watch? And I think that's a bigger factor. And so the fact that she brought attention to bring more eyes and viewership there, that's great for the sport. So, I mean, it's good overall.
Definitely, because I promise you, as a woman, I was not keeping up with the WNBA like that. I would see it from time to time, but once Caitlin came in, even when she was like right towards before she went into the league, when the team just looked amazing. And then, of course, you got the Lady Gamecocks, Dawn Staley. Let's be clear, Dawn looks like me. Dawn and I are almost the same hue of African American. I am drawn to that. I cannot even say that I'm not. And it's not because I'm like, oh, okay, Kim Malarkey can't coach. I'm drawn to Kim too because of her dress. People that stand out. She looks very feminine. She looks very pretty in her clothes, sometimes eccentric. The eye is drawn to what it's drawn to, either a likeness or something so extravagant that you have to pay attention to it.
Now, people, I'm watching this documentary right now. It's a 5-part documentary on the Celtics, okay? And Red Auerbach was like asked, because he got Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, Danny Ainge. He's trying to make the team all white. And it was more appealing to the crowd in Boston. Let's be honest about it. Boston was behind the times compared to a lot of other cities, on the East Coast. as far as race relations go. But Red Auerbach's the same guy who was the first coach in history to have a starting, five, of all black men too. So that's kind of sometimes forgotten in the thing. And what team wouldn't want to have Larry Bird and Kevin McHale? I mean, give me a break. Sometimes we read too much into things. I mean, Caitlin Clark is a heck of a player, but yeah, like I said before, her being white elevated her. If she were black, she would not get the same level of attention. Okay, unless her game went up an additional notch and she was the Michael Jordan of the WNBA. You have to be like super great, to get that level of attention. If you're black, if you're white, you could be a little level behind that. But if you're standing out by yourself the way Caitlin Clark, and sometimes there's a charisma factor on any athlete, which is so hard to judge. Some athletes have charisma, some don't. Caitlin Clark, for whatever reason, just has a lot of charisma, but you're attracted to. Maybe it's her game, the way she plays too. Her game is somewhat entertaining compared to, a lot of other players.
Yeah, when you're great, greatness just attracts the audience every time. When you're even really, really bad, sometimes it attracts the audience. It has to be an extreme of one or the other. Let's move on. Great debate between us all, I guess. Me too. With this question about Caitlin Clark. Thank you for that question, Jack. Number 3, probably I kind of want to skip this one and come back because I want to make sure we have time to really address it. So I'm going to go to the 4th question and then come back. Is that okay, Jack? Okay. The 4th question is, which team is most likely to win the World Series if the Dodgers don't?
That's a good question in the sense that everyone seems to be picking the Dodgers. It's a gutsy move to pick against the Dodgers. I can't think of a favorite like this in baseball, a team that's been favored the way the Dodgers have this year. It's been a lot of years since a team, is a prohibitive favorite. I mean, I'm not going to overanalyze it. Thanks, Richard. I don't know if you agree with this, but if I had to guess, I think Cags will be happy. I'll say the team that beat the Dodgers last night, the Philadelphia Phillies, who handed them their first loss. And I like the attitude of Bryce Harper. He's hearing all these complaints about the Dodgers buying players, spending money, being stacked, and he told everyone, stop it. That's a loser's attitude. Let them put whoever the heck they want on their team, and let's try to beat them. That's the attitude to take. If you start whining about what the Dodgers have been doing,
right,
you're half beaten already. So I kind of like the Phillies. They have Romuto, knows their catcher, Trey Turner. In the infield, of course, the great Bryce Harper, Zach Wheeler. And they're always there in the playoffs each year. They're the team that's most likely, I think, to stop the Dodgers from, getting to the World Series and winning it.
Okay. J-Train, your thoughts?
Yeah, as I alluded before, I mean, I think the Dodgers, they're paid guns for hire, so you can't, but you can't not acknowledge that they're not a good team. I mean, we look back at the World Series or the team back in the '90s when the Yankees were paying they had a high payroll, and they were winning. You just have to beat them. I agree. I read the article what Bryce Harper said, and I was like, okay, I like his attitude because, look, I mean, what are we, chopped liver? Even if we're not the highest payroll, we still have the mindset that we can go and beat those guys and stop them, because they're all in the NL. And a team that I thought that might have an opportunity is in the National League as well. And I think the San Diego Padres might have an opportunity to get there. I like what they're doing. I like they have a good bit of superstars. They're not pretty. They don't, they're not the shiny car on the block but they still have the great engine, and I think they still can run and have an opportunity to win and stop them from going to the World Series. But again, yeah, I really like what Bryce Harper said about that, and I hope that resonates with everybody in regards. Hey, Lawson, how you doing? I hope that resonates with everybody. not just players, but fans alike. Just like, come on, this like that's a really a loser's mentality. But I like the Padres.
Yeah, I guess for me, I kind of agree with that because I feel like the Padres have been neck and neck so far. The Padres are kind of this team that they have just gotten great over time. They've gotten a lot better, and now they are neck and neck. But I will say the
Padres
Phillies.
have been good the last few years. It's not like they're getting better over time. They haven't quite made it to the World Series for quite a while, but they've been in the playoffs. They've been in the mix. They nearly beat the Dodgers in the playoffs last year. So
I was getting there. I was getting there, Jack. You just like I noticed, you know,
said
I
they've been
agree.
getting great. I have to correct that. They haven't been getting great.
I was trying to get to that point. I was building to that, but thanks, Jack. He just cut right to the point. Literally, Jack of all trades. Seriously. So yeah, what Jack said was what I was gonna say. So I do agree, but I wanted to also say another thing is the Phillies. You cannot forget the Phillies. Every season we see them appear out of, I don't want to say nowhere, but they remain very competitive. So they're a team that very well could be that upset factor for the Dodgers. And I dare say, even though y'all probably don't believe it, I'm just kind of geared towards the Yankees as well. All right, let's move on to our last question here. We've got a good 19 minutes to talk about it, and that's great. Which quarterback joining a new team this season will have the greatest impact? Jack, are you talking about a quarterback as a rookie quarterback or a
No,
new
no,
quarterback?
any quarterback. It could be a free agent who's
Okay,
with
perfect.
a new team this season, which is
Perfect.
going to have. It could be a rookie drafted, but outside of Cam Ward, who it appears obvious at this point, that he's going to go to Tennessee. That's the way it certainly seems. But outside of Cam Ward going to Tennessee, we don't know where the other quarterbacks are going to be drafted, like Shador Sanders, Jackson Dart, etc., etc. But we know who's gone where.
I do want to plug in something real quick that Brent said. I'm sorry, Brent, I missed this. He said after watching the Dodgers Tigers game, he was wishing our owner would start digging deeper into his pockets. Big gap between the two. So he's talking about Tigers and Dodgers. Of course, Tigers is a Detroit team. That's their team. All right. So, yeah, who do you guys think? What do you think, J Train?
All
Most
right, so I was
improved quarterback.
looking through all the quarterbacks. We got Geno Smith, Russell Wilson, Sam Darnold, and even Jace. Who was it? Not Jameis Winston, because I mean, obviously, two quarterbacks went to the New York Giants, and last but not least, even though he's delaying the inevitable, we're talking about Aaron Rodgers. I think Aaron Rodgers is likely, considering he's throwing the football. He's given every hint that he wants to play for the Steelers, but he's throwing the football to DK Metcalf in LA. And I mean, come on, man. We know where you're going. Stop delaying. He's just such a drama queen. But I look, it's between, to me, of all the quarterbacks, it's between Geno Smith, Russell Wilson, and Aaron Rodgers. Sam Darnold, I like he got Cooper Kupp and Jackson Smith and Jigba. We don't know what else they're going to do there. I'm not sold on them. I don't think he's going to have a really good impact. I think he should have stayed with the Vikings, because I think that was where his best success was. I think he's going to regress a little bit. Russell Wilson makes a great consideration, because if you have a star in Malik Neighbors that had Tommy DeVito, had Daniel Jones, and had Drew Lock throwing to him, and he was almost rookie of the year. So you get a better quarterback, a bona fide star in Russell Wilson, even if he has waned a little bit. You get him in there, I think, to throw to this guy, and also to Darius Slayton and Jalen Wyatt. He's got a good group there. And then I like the running back, Tracy, I forgot the kid's name, the rookie that was last year. But anyway, he's pretty decent. Russell Wilson has a great shot at making a difference with the New York Giants. But I'm going to give it to Geno Smith. I think Geno Smith, with Brock Byers and Jacoby Myers, and with an addition of potentially Ashton Genty I think they, I mean, considering his success level with both Pete Carroll having a couple of seasons, 4,000 yards, I think he does the same thing here. He takes care of the ball, and I think he makes the biggest difference for the Raiders.
Wow, that's such a thought-provoking question. And yes, Richard, I know I've actually worked in courts and seen a lot. It's called an objection. But anyway, Jack didn't object. He just started speaking. Gotta love him. I don't know how to actually look at this question because it's so many moving parts. You know, the key to it would be like Richard said, doesn't it come down to who has the best offensive line? Because we've seen quarterbacks come in, Heisman Trophy draftees. We've seen veteran quarterbacks who have been like Super Bowl champions go to different teams and they flop. So I don't know if you'll say greatest impact in a negative way or greatest impact for you just can't turn away because it's a bad train wreck. Like greatest impact in a negative way. Like, oh my goodness, I cannot believe this team looks like this with this quarterback. So for that reason, I'm going to say Aaron Rodgers because
Talking about
everybody,
positive impact, Sonja. When you say
well,
greatest impact, it's assumed it's positive
yeah,
impact.
is it though, really, Jack? I'm kind of tearing that word. Is it greatest impact? Great meaning the large impact meaning more notice, more mental wherewithal. So for me, it could go a greatest impact, like, oh my goodness, I can't believe they tanked that team. They looked great before they got him. That's an impact. That's a pretty big impact. Great means big, but I'll go with the positive. Okay, so it won't be Aaron Rodgers then because we know he's a freaking pansy. I'll go with let's see, let's go with Russell Wilson as well. Or you know what? Correction, whoever Cleveland gets is going to be the greatest impact because they cannot get any freaking worse than what they've already gotten with that Cabbage Patch Kid, and that's a compliment to even tell him he looks like that. From what they've got, the shenanigans with Deshaun Watson for the Browns. So whoever they get has to be a positive add. I don't care if it's a rookie. I don't care if they promote a water boy to quarterback. It's got to be better than what they have now, both professionally and on the field.
Well, right now they have Kenny Pickett. That's their
I
that's
think it could get better.
You know, I'm pretty good at figuring out what teams are going to do. You know, more so than all these guys you hear in the media saying a team's going to take this, this, this. I like what you said, Jay Train, on the past show about receipts. I'm a big believer in receipts. These guys
Okay,
never,
Jack.
we never check their receipts because they're usually always wrong, and then they come off in a very authoritative way, and then they say the next thing, and they make a fool of themselves again, but everyone forgets. Okay, keep this in mind. Last year, the same question. I said the quarterback who new to his team who's going to have the greatest impact would be Sam Darnold with the Vikings. I was right. I'm cashing in my receipt. But the Cleveland Browns, I can't figure them out. I can figure out all the other NFL teams. Like I know the Giants aren't taking Shador Sanders, for example. What is Cleveland going to do? The only reason I can't figure them out, I mean, is because who's going to be playing quarterback for them if they don't take Shador Sanders? I mean, I don't understand unless they think they can get Jackson Dart, move up at the end of the first round, make a deal, and they're going to take Abdul Carter #2. Cleveland is throwing me for a loop. They have me off balance. Anything is possible. I don't think they're taking Shador. He's going to fall to #9 to the New Orleans Saints. The Raiders absolutely aren't going to take him. The Jets aren't going to take him. Jacksonville's not going to take him. New England before. Carolina's not. So he's going to fall to the Saints. I'm not certain the Saints are going to take him. I think they'll take him. That's why I think he's going to wind up. But who's going to have the greatest? But he's not going to have the greatest impact, regardless. Maybe we could say Cam Ward. Could he do for Tennessee what C.J. Stroud did for Houston, what Jaden Daniels did for Washington? You want to know something? I was wrong last year. Wait a second. I can't cash in my receipt.
Oh,
I just said because Jaden Daniels had a greater impact for Washington. Well, you can correct me. Who had a greater impact for their team? Jaden Daniels for Washington, Sam Darnold for Minnesota. I would have to say now Jaden Daniels. So I don't get credit because he took them to the NFC Championship game. But the Vikings had a much better regular season. So it's a little bit of a wash. That's kind of close in that sense. I think and you left out J Train one name that could potentially have the biggest impact on his team and new quarterback. What about Daniel Jones in Indianapolis?
oh my
Yes,
God.
I know I'm not a big Daniel Jones fan, but the odds are he's going to be starting for them at some point because either Anthony Richardson is going to get injured or he's not going to play well, and Daniel Jones is going to be given an opportunity probably sooner rather than later, maybe even opening game for all we know. But the quarterback I think who's going to have the most success is going to be Geno Smith for the simple reason he has a coach that believes in him. A coach and Pete Carroll who's coached him before. Geno Smith and Pete Carroll apparently have a great relationship. And Pete Carroll is going to be gearing the team around, Geno Smith. They're probably going to be drafting Gentry, running back. And so I could see Geno Smith having a lot of success there. As far as Russell Wilson goes, it's a wild card because I'm pretty confident the Giants do draft Travis Hunter if he's that number 3. And the feeling is he will. And I think he's primarily going to be made a wide receiver. You put him and Malik Neighbors at both ends. Man, are they like the Splash Brothers, Curry and Thompson there as receivers? That's awesome. Think of those two guys, two Rolls Royces, two bookends like that. Oh, that makes a quarterback better. That makes him better. That's why I don't see the Giants taking Shador Sanders in
Mm-hmm.
that crowded quarterback room, even though he
Yeah.
would be their quarterback of the future. The Giant front office has to think short term now, and so I think Geno Smith is the guy who is going to have the most success of all the quarterbacks joining their new team. As far as Aaron Rodgers goes, keep this in mind. If he goes to the Steelers, even though they made the playoffs, the Steelers lost their last 5 games. They're a bit of a sinking ship. I can't say I would even predict the Steelers to have a winning record once again this year, even though they've done it for something like 17 years in a row.
Yeah.
So
Good
you
morning,
saying
David, as well. Thank you.
you saying Aaron Rodgers, if he goes there, he doesn't have any success with DK Metcalf and George Pickens. Talk about another set of bookends. I mean, that's pretty impressive. I'm not saying Aaron Rodgers because he had decent receivers in New York and it didn't work out.
They're dysfunctional though over there.
Yeah.
DK Metcalf is a bit of an eye guy, it seems. From all indications.
So is George Pickens.
Pickens is more than an eye guy, however you want to describe him. He's difficult, could be very difficult. He's going to get extra emotional when the ball's not coming his way. And Aaron Rodgers only wants guys who have patience with him. Okay, and Aaron Rodgers didn't utilize Garrett Wilson as well as he could have. Garrett Wilson should have been his ultimate guy. And it didn't quite work out that way with the Jets. And Najee Harris left to go to the Chargers. So how is their running game? I just don't like the chemistry that the Steelers have.
Now,
Yeah.
go ahead.
No, I was just saying, yeah, I got you. Go ahead, J Train.
I do want to go back to the Shador Sanders thing. I know we talked about this last Sunday or Saturday, and we had I do recap that you call my team dysfunctional.
Oh, get him, J Train. Attack.
I have a few more minutes to get into that, but no, I'm not going to really get into that. What I am going to say is that I believe that Shador, look, he had his pro day yesterday, and who was in attendance? Both the Giants organization and Cleveland organization.
Oh.
Now, they weren't just watching Shador, they were watching Travis Hunter as well. But I do think that Shador has a strong possibility of not falling past 2. I think Cleveland may want to get their quarterback. Or you made a great point about Jack, about them grabbing Abdul Carter and then coming back up into the first round and grabbing a quarterback like Jackson Dart or something, so they can get you don't want Jackson Dart really is a second round quarterback, but if you get him in late in the first, you get that 5th-year option. So that makes it a lot easier to keep a quarterback, so you can sit him and have an extra year. You redshirt him and have an extra year so that he can play a little longer on a rookie contract. Excuse me one second.
While J Train is excusing himself, I want to give some breaking news real quick. Trey Lance, ex 49ers, Cowboys, has now signed a 1-year contract with the San Diego Chargers. He's going back, the number 3 overall pick. This is breaking news. I just missed it. 2021 NFL draft agreed to terms with the Los Angeles Chargers. My bad, guys. On a 1-year contract worth $6.2 million. Of course, he fell from the hopeful San Francisco 49ers franchise quarterback to just a third stringer for the Cowboys. And the question was posed last night. So now he is officially back in California. All right, Jay Trey, thank you for that.
That's a good move. Harbaugh, this is it for Trey Lance. Harbaugh knows college quarterbacks. He remembers Trey Lance in college. And let's see, if Harbaugh can't do anything with Trey Lance, that's it. That's it for him because the NFL.
Yeah.
What a fall from grace.
Yeah, literally. Wow.
This is somebody that was picked as the number 1 draft pick for the 49ers, and they gave up 3 first-rounders for him. It's crazy.
Yeah. So and you know what, we were talking about that last night on a Friday with the fellas, guys. Remember, we were like, where does Trey Lance go? And I was like, I don't know, because they robbed him of those last snaps, so he didn't even get a chance to really fulfill what he was supposed to be paid. And good morning, Jeremy, thank you for joining us. Welcome home. Jay Trey, so as we wrap up the last 3 minutes here, your point on the most influential quarterback, you were speaking about Shador before I think Skips came in the room.
Yes. So I just don't think he falls past 2 or 3. I really think that he's not gonna. I mean, I'm all for it. If he falls down to New Orleans and they grab him, great. He's a culture changer. I think that him and that young coach, they're gonna make magic. But I just don't see that happen. I really think one of those quarterback needy teams that are up, even the teams that have grabbed quarterbacks, but they grab quarterbacks that are temporary fixes. None of them have a franchise guy that they can look forward to the future. And everybody talks about how next year looks like the year for quarterbacks. We're particularly speaking to Arch Manning. You haven't seen a guy play a full season yet, so we don't even know for sure if this really.
Can you get Arch Manning? You don't know what your team's going to do, where they're going to fall. The only thing I could think, Cleveland wouldn't be trying to tank it by any chance for quarterback. Why would they sign Myles Garrett and make a big deal? Myles Garrett wanted to be traded. If Cleveland was tanking it, they would have let Myles Garrett work out a deal, gotten a couple of number 1 draft choices for him, work something out, draft capital, so they wouldn't have a good team and they'd move on from him. But the idea that they refuse to trade him means that they want to win next season.
Exactly, which is, to me, I think it's a strong possibility that they take a quarterback, because I mean, who do you have now? I mean, you have Kenny Pickett. What is Kenny Pickett showing you? Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, that he's a backup quarterback. They need somebody in there, and you're not going to have Deshaun Watson. Even if you did, he's fallen off. He's fallen from grace, in more ways than one. I really think they're going to take a quarterback, and I think to have a culture change, just like I'd mentioned, you have somebody that changed cultures in 2 different places he was in. Why not change a culture in Cleveland?
Shador Sanders is falling to number 9 to the New Orleans Saints. And if the Saints are dysfunctional,
I'm writing the receipt down too.
I love Jay Train's reaction when the Saints, if they pass on Shador Sanders, then he's going to be taken by the Los Angeles Rams at something like 21. That's how it's going to unfold.
Yep, and guys, we got to wrap up here. JB's talking about the reason why Trey Lance was traded for Quentin Johnson. They said Myles Garrett is like Max Crosby, cornerstone for foundation. Guys, we thank you all for all the likes, loves, shares, and all that stuff. And we'll see you tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock, same bat time, same bat station for the Sunday Morning Big Sports Show. Jack, J Train, and Sonya signing off for now. Everybody, thanks for a great show and good day.
National Streaming Sports is brought to you in part by BetUs.com, designed